Okay guys, welcome back. So we're onto wedges this week.
Yes.
Not really done too much kind of head-to-head testing of 2019 versus 2020 product in the wedge category.
I don't think we've really done much of any.
No,
Yep,
no.
Good point.
So SM7 versus SM8, probably the one that most people, if you asked 100 people, what would they want to know the difference between?
True.
This would be the one.
Yeah, so one product cycle basically. Are they
Yep.
every 2 years, their wedges, or is it
I mean,
ish?
it can vary, I guess, depending on what they are changing.
Right. I'm trying to remember when, because when I got mine, SM7 would have
Yeah.
been fairly new. It was about
Yeah.
a year and a half ago, so it makes
Exactly.
sense. Yep.
So cosmetically, some nice changes to the back. I
Yeah.
really like what they've done with it.
Agree.
Acknowledging obviously the customization element with the plain pad at the back.
It's very nice.
Other than that, the same grinds for the most part. I don't think there's really kind of too much different in the grinds from last year.
Okay.
Very, very similar options.
I mean, they've had about as many options as anyone for a long time. In terms of loft, bounce,
Yeah.
and grind, is there anyone with probably more options than that? At standard? I wouldn't think.
No, I mean, Callaway, you have a bunch. Cleveland has
That's true. Cleveland's are good too,
It's
aren't
quite
they?
a lot as well. But I think in terms of grinds, not just bounce options, but actual grinds,
Yeah.
I think Titleist probably has the sort of the majority.
Nice.
So we're going to do gap wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge, so
Right.
50, 54, 60.
60.
And it's going to be good because we're going to test them against yours.
Yeah, I've got my wedges here. I play 54, 50, 54, 58, but we'll use
Right,
60
we'll use
today.
60 today.
To be honest, I
Yeah.
kind of want to switch to a 60 anyway.
Yeah, you've been saying that.
Yeah, so it should work out nice.
Okay. I'll leave it till the end
Sure.
to really get into what they have changed and see if it shows up.
Yeah, let's see what happens with
And
the
if
data.
it doesn't show up, then obviously, we'll discuss that also.
Gotcha.
But yeah, let's see what the results show us.
All right.
Very
Oh.
nice.
Yep. One. Okay. Okay. Lovely. Boof.
Well, let's look at the kind of gap wedge to start with. All within really small tolerances, you know, a percent here or there.
Yep.
In terms of the differences.
Yeah, true.
We saw a little spike in spin, so probably about 300 RPM in the favour of the SM8. Nothing major.
Nope.
Distances were good, slightly higher flight through the additional speed. Launch was very similar, spin was slightly higher, so nothing.
Those two are close enough, I would agree.
Nothing too crazy. 54s. And that little kind of that little hack that some fitters use of the launch angle being half the loft.
Oh, okay. Is
So
that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's about right. 54s.
It's a little rough fitting hack.
Right.
You know, any side of that, higher or lower, and you're probably doing something a little unique with your delivery.
Makes sense.
So nothing too different with that one.
Yep.
60 full shots.
These were the ones that I noticed launch lower.
Yeah, this is
SM8 at that
different,
point,
isn't
they really
it?
came down.
Okay.
Initial
So
launch came down.
spin wasn't the spin. It was a little bit of a difference in speed and launch.
Yeah.
So brought the flight down a little bit. Okay. But in terms of end result, there's not much in it. Again, about 177 RPMs in the spin.
Yeah, more or less the same, right?
Not crazy. So this is where it got interesting, and this is one of the reasons we added in the partial. There was a just under 700 RPM difference with the partial swing.
That's quite a bit.
That's a ton.
Yeah.
That is a
From
ton.
already quite a high spinning wedge, right?
Yep. When we were out at Oceanside, we did spend a lot of time with the wedge guys out there, and one of the things they talked about was the problem some players were talking about when they were trying to flight the lob wedges last year with SM7.
Yeah.
So they felt like CG was a little too far back.
Okay.
So this year they lengthened the hosel slightly. So if we look at how if we look at how a wedge sort of sits, if we look at that from that standpoint, you know, obviously we're going to lean the shaft, right? So we're going to lean the shaft obviously forward.
Yep.
The furthest forward part of the whole thing is going to be the hosel.
Okay.
So lengthening the hosel will place the mass slightly further forward and allow them to drive the flight down slightly.
Interesting.
So you know, there is a little bit of tungsten in the front of the head as well.
Interesting.
So there's some added material there, but that's how they've been able to manipulate the flight. And typical what we see when we do see more spin, we do start to see obviously carry distances dropping off a little bit.
Yep.
So you're.
I mean, the yardage we were trying to aim for was 65, so technically that is what we were trying to do anyway.
Pretty much right there. But biggest difference, being the 650 RPMs of difference.
That's quite interesting.
On that with exactly the same wedge head.
Yeah.
Basically.
Same wedge head, same grind, same
degree,
and same bounce.
12 degrees in the D grind. So really across the board, not massive changes.
There'll be subtle differences. I think it will matter. Probably your technique will matter. How good of a player you are may factor into it if you're playing those types of shots, or do you want the extra, ability to flight it a bit in the higher lofts? Again, I think we've said this a few times this year. Like, they're a good wedge to begin with. Didn't really need an overhaul. I think the cosmetics I think look better this year for sure. Yeah. And if there's some extra spin in there, then great. So one thing we haven't really talked about is the standard deviation. So ball speed, SM8 was tighter. Launch angle, SM8 was tighter. Spin rate, SM8 was tighter. Right, so that's 3 out of 3. The first that's the first lofts.
And then the next one, I think there was tighter in that, tighter in launch, but a fraction tighter with SM7 on spin. So 5-1.
Fair enough.
Right, so we are seeing a little bit of that with it in terms of the deviation. A little bit tighter there. Interestingly, a little bit different on the spin on the 60.
6.3 there.
So as we've seen sort of the
those are tighter all across the board.
Quite a lot across the board.
So on average, the standard deviations are definitely lower.
If we were to do 12 tests, which effectively that is, it's quite heavily weighted in form of SM8.
And you might argue that's actually a really big design improvement, because at a certain point, they're getting to a point where they've got the flight, the spin,
Yeah.
and everything, and the feel and everything really dialed in. It's kind of like the drivers we've been talking
That's
about.
exactly what it is.
They just want every shot to be as close together as possible.
Yeah.
And I would appear from this test that they've definitely done something with that.
And I think that's what the manufacturers are doing, guys. I think they're just continuing to tighten the screws.
Yep.
I think that's what it comes down to. When they make improvements, it might not show up in ball speed or launch angle or spin rate, but when you look at the whole thing, the whole picture, you can actually start to see a pretty decent trend in terms of how much it's improved overall.
And with wedges, consistency has to be one of the most important factors.
Definitely.
Because if you had one wedge that spun way more on average, but was less consistent, you'd probably play worse golf with it, even though it is technically higher spinning on average. So it's a really good little metric.
Definitely. Okay.
Nice.
You know, I think it still comes down to, though, that people could get some good value at SM7s if they're on sale in the store, and
well fitted as well. That would make a big difference.
You could put together a pretty good second-hand bag or a good 2019 bag at a cheaper price. I mean, it'd be interesting to put together a best of 2019 bag and a best of 2020 bag for basically $2 values right now and see what your score would be.
That might be a video request.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Yep.
All right, cool. Guys, we're kind of somewhat getting towards the end, I think, of our 2019 versus 2020 test. It seems like
I feel like we're probably just about done.
fairly close to being done. So, you know, we do have some other ideas for some other tests. We have a bunch of trips and stuff planned. And
different part of the year, yeah. So we've kind of had our initial product testing, we've done our versus testing, and then we're going to get some other stuff on the docket.
The bracket could
Bracket's going to be coming back very soon.
Yeah.
It's spring. We got to get. It's 10 degrees out today.
Balmy. Okay, guys, stay tuned for more, and we'll see you again soon.